Hello my fellow Frosties. With Frost Mage on the rise, the number one question I see asked constantly is, which legendary should I take? Now, the annoying thing about Frost is that it has 3 legendaries which are all as viable as each other. The decision as to which one to use lies with you, the content you are doing, group comps, and so much more. With this video, I hope to give you the tools to be able to decide for yourself which legendary to take in whichever situation you find yourself. If you would like an in-depth written form of topics I cover in this video, plus extras, please check out Tonegrinder's Frost Mage Compendium. And as always, for up-to-date sims on Covenants, Legendaries, Trinkets and more, please check out his Mage sims. A lot of the information in this video was also carried by Colorin, who is one of the other clever math mages over in the All-to-Time Mage Discord. Keep an eye out for him, especially in the Frost Mage channel. There is no one better to rely on for correct information than him. You can find his stream along with all of the other resources all linked below. When crafting your legendary, you should aim to craft it in the slot which has the most stats. This is due to the high item level max legendaries achieve. Legs take priority over everything else. Necks and rings following that, then hands and feet, and lastly the back slot. In 9.1 specifically, you want to avoid slots with domination sockets. I will break down where you would craft each Frost legendary as I go through them individually throughout the video. The missives you will always use are Crit and Haste. The first legendary on this list is Slick Ice, which is our best single target legendary. Craft it in the leg slot with Crit Haste. The damage profile Slick Ice gives is pure single target. I've seen a lot of comments such as, even with Slick Ice, my frostbolts don't hit hard. I feel it important to explain that the legendary isn't solely about increasing frostbolts damage. It's about casting faster frostbolts to fish for procs much quicker. Slick Ice is an uptime legendary, however, so if you can plant your feet in turret, it performs really well. The downside to this is that movement can hurt its optimization. So taking this into consideration, the situations you would take this legendary are single target fights in the raid with high consistent uptime. As I said, Slick Ice is the most punished legendary by movement and downtime. This drawback is something you should always consider. This brings me onto the next legendary, Freezing Winds. This legendary is our in-between legendary and best all-rounder. It used to be crafted in the head slot, but however due to domination sockets, it's now crafted on gloves. Please don't worry too much if you have crafted it on the headpiece. You have time to work towards moving it. With all this said, craft it in the hand slot with Crit Haste. Freezing Winds is useful on both single target, cleave and AoE. The damage profile Freezing Winds gives is a number of things. It's the highest burst legendary, so it's useful in vulnerable damage windows. It's our best legendary for funneling and cleave. It's also good on single target fights with a lot of forced movement and or downtime. So when would you take this legendary? In a raiding environment, this legendary excels at 2-target cleave, funnel fights, and single target fights with a lot of movement. Just to reiterate, if you see more than one target in the raid, then Freezing Winds is the legendary you take. If the fight is single target with a lot of downtime or movement, then you also take this legendary. It's also extremely good in Mythic Plus due to the diversity and meaningful/useful damage. Lastly, we have Glacial Fragments. This is our pure AoE legendary. It's crafted in the leg slot with Crit Haste. It gives us consistent pure AoE damage, while being fairly useless on anything else, such as single target damage. It might look spicy on the meters on small irrelevant mobs, however the damage is pad damage and not so much meaningful damage. The situations you would take this legendary is in a Mythic Plus scenario, where your team aren't struggling with boss or priority target damage. Or if you see it on the raid fights in logs with 3+ targets, they are padding, which you would be if you take this legendary, which of course is never recommended on progress. Please do not do this. I would honestly say that you shouldn't worry too much about crafting this legendary. It's not needed for the content that we do. It is recommended that you take Freezing Winds in keys. The damage profile given by the legendary is useful, meaningful damage, which helps times keys. It's also not as reliant on the tank. If the mobs aren't in Blizzard, you don't lose all of your damage like with Glacial Fragments, which is great in pug environments. Bosses will be faster with more damage from the legendary and priority targets will be nuked. Generally, this legendary helps your team more than the rest, especially with the Season 2 affix, where you have the mobs that you need to kill for the anima powers. Glacial Fragments is viable if your team comp allows for a consistent AoE damage profile and is not struggling with single target or priority target mobs. If your group can cover your weaknesses from running Glacial Fragments, then by all means you can run it. However, just to reiterate, Glacial Fragments is not needed. Freezing Winds will contribute much more to timing keys with its useful damage. Freezing Winds is the most versatile legendary, as it's great for most of the fights in the raid and also Mythic Plus. It is advised that you max this first. The other two legendaries are extremes in their niche uses. Freezing Winds is the flexible, consistent legendary. If I'm forced to make high-end raid predictions on which legendary to max first, it will be whichever legendary is best for the first DPS check/boss wall in Mythic. This early on, before Mythic is even released, it's difficult to say which boss this could be. My advice is to focus on Freezing Winds first and then craft Slick Eyes second. Remember that legendary ranks only give minor stat gains, so it's not the end of the world to run a legendary that isn't max rank. It is important to get the legendary itself though. As I said before, I wouldn't say you would need to craft Glacial Fragments at all unless you wanted to. It can be fun legendary to play with. I myself sometimes use it in Mythic Plus in organised groups, however it really isn't needed. Thank you for watching another one of my videos. As always, I hope this video helped you. I see questions on the topic of which legendary to take constantly, so I really hope this provides to be a good resource to reference to. I wish you all the best in Season 2 and SOD. Until next time, bye bye!